You know, the West is dealing with a lot of discontent. A lot of people are, if you watch social media, a lot of people are dissatisfied with the American dream or the Canadian dream. You know, you have people coming into the country illegally or legally trying to make a better life and realizing, hold on a second, it's super expensive here. That's right. And as the economy benefits some and not others, you know, those of us who are homeowners, yay, our homes are at all-time highs, but that only benefits you until you try to sell and buy another property. Because typically what people do when they retire is downsize and take some of that equity from their bigger home when they had kids and use it as retirement income. But now downsizing isn't even a possibility. So as we pretend, okay, some people are benefiting, some people aren't, and the people who are benefiting don't want their housing prices to drop, it's leaving out the first rung of the ladder, people who are trying to get into the rat race, unfortunately. But as central planners continue to distort the economy by printing money and taking it away, and we're playing this game of musical chairs, like you better get on a chair or you're never going to be able to afford a chair ever again. People are getting pissed off, and that's ultimately the problem that politicians run into with central planning is everything works because some people are benefiting, everyone's getting richer, and then you have this pesky problem of people wanting to eat at the bottom rung, and they get really ticked, and then you have revolution unless you acquiesce. You got to give them something. So how are we going to give them something? We got to print more money. What are we going to try? Why don't we try UBI? Okay, everyone's favorite. You've heard of this before. I've talked about it on this channel, but universal basic income, they just proposed it in Canada. Now, if we're at the point where we are suggesting universal basic income, I got to tell you, we're just one step, because the central planners, you have to ask yourself, and I ultimately, my point is not to get cute and try to time the market. A lot of people are like, well, who knows? We might hit another cycle or whatever. If you're in this economy and you understand what I understand, a lot of people who watch this channel understand, this fiat bullcrap that they keep trying, which is printing money and distorting the economy and raising and lowering interest rates, and we're having ZERP and BRRR, and we have zero interest rate policies, and we print to the moon. If you're like me and you think, hold on a second, I'm not like this huge smart economist, but I know that printing money doesn't create prosperity because we would just print to the moon. Why don't we just do that? They're trying to find this happy median of printing and making the rich richer and the poor not too poor, yada yada yada. But the poor are getting so poor because they can't afford to get on the first rung of the ladder, which is home ownership, can't afford food, etc. They're starting to knock on those politicians' doors and say, "Hey, we can't afford to eat. So if you want to stay in power, you're going to have to give us something." Income's universal basic income. And eventually, much like all socialist programs, you run out of other people's money. Or another way to put that, you run out of productivity because people stop being productive. Because if you can get free stuff without being productive, why would you be productive? Again, economists and politicians forget the first rule of economics, which is scarcity, and they forget human nature. So Canada is considering a guaranteed universal basic income program. Here's what that means. And if you haven't followed, uh, the Canadian real estate market is much worse than the United States. They don't have 30-year fixed rate mortgages. So their mortgages are going up every 5 years or so. They have to refinance, and as interest rates go up, ooh, you got a big problem. Yeah. Canada is taking baby steps towards basic income program meant to broadly address poverty. Now, what caused the poverty in the first place? Let's not talk about that. It's not the money printing. Oh, geez. So, you know what we should try? You know how that money printing caused poverty? You know what we should do, Bob? Print more money and hand it out. Genius. So the Senate bill in Canada proposes guaranteed livable basic income for anyone in Canada over the age of 17. Do you need a job? No. You need to be productive? No. And guess what? This will be just like Social Security. This will be a larger and larger percentage of the population, larger and larger voting populace. And guess what they'll vote for? More of it. It's just, you see the things falling apart, and it's like, you study history so you don't repeat it, I think. Isn't that what we were supposed to do in school? And yet, history repeats. This includes temporary workers, permanent residents, and refugee claimants. Oh, goody. The proposed basic income framework wouldn't replace or decrease existing health and disability benefits. So this is on top of the other checks the government's handing out. Now, everyone has a bleeding heart, right? Everyone has empathy for suffering, for human suffering. But when you look at the reality of the situation, if you have one loaf of bread and 10 people, the question is, how do you divvy it up? Right? Scarcity. Because we can't all have whatever we want. And in order for there to be abundance, meaning everyone gets a loaf of bread, you need productivity. You don't need more political currency units pumped into the economy. And these economists are so daft. They're making it worse and worse and worse. And you can ask yourself the question, are they dumb? Are they evil? Because unfortunately, the voting populace will vote for their own demise, right? Just like we did during the cerveza sickness. We're like, okay, yeah, I guess we can stay at home. You're going to pay my salary? Fantastic. Fantastic. But what were you doing before? You were doing something productive. And now that productivity has stopped. So who's making the widgets? No one. So there's more currency units into the system. There's less widgets to buy. And what happens? Inflation. And then people are pissed off that they have inflation, can't afford a home, can't afford groceries, and they go back to the government for more of the same stuff. And central planners always acquiesce. And I got to tell you, I don't see it not collapsing. Like, I don't see a silver lining. The only silver lining is there's options now. There's options like Bitcoin, which is a whole new ledger system that the government can't control. And people are slowly waking up. They are slowly waking up. But I'll tell you, everything the government's going to do is going to make it worse. Remember, all they can do is print. And as Janet Yellen is printing to the moon as interest rates are going up, she says we can afford 2 wars. In the bond market being people who buy U.S. government debt, is saying, oh, okay, if you're going to go into that much debt, even more debt, we want to be compensated for that. So they don't buy the bonds until interest rates go up. You see the problem? You feel like if you watch this stuff in the news, you're like, am I taking crazy pills? Then you're called the idiot who doesn't care about people. You don't want people to get UBI. You don't want people to get stimmy checks. You don't want to defend this country in the far-flung areas of the world. If you want to do those things, then you cannot do something else. If you don't want the currency to debase. If you want to defend this country, if you want UBI, then you can't have Social Security. Then you can't have a military. Then you have to have trade-offs. Or what will happen, guaranteed, the currency will debase. That choice will be made for you. So you get to decide. I think what's going to happen is no one's going to decide anything because every politician is scared of the voters. They will decide through not deciding to debase the currency. Every time. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. UBI's inbound. Everyone's excited. All right. Peace.